Hello and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. And this is the players rating video for Everton's 2-0 win away at Ipswich Town. So I've just recorded the instant match reaction to the game, so make sure you go and check that out. That will have been already uploaded onto the Toffee Blues channel by the time you're watching this one. So make sure to check that out for more in-depth thoughts on the match as a whole. But obviously, as ever in this video, we'll be going through each player's individual performance and giving them a mark out of 10 based on how well I think they played. And yeah, it's nice to do this after a win. Often I have to try and pluck out some positives from another disappointed defeat, but after a win, it's happy days. So yeah, I'd say jumping straight in really. Obviously, it was a 2-0 win, second consecutive clean sheet after the defense hasn't quite been up to its usual standard so far this season, but it's showing signs that it's returning to the solidity that we were so used to last season, and I think a big part of that has to go to a lot of credit has to go to Jordan Pickford for that. And he didn't have too much to do, I don't think, in this game against Ipswich, but anything that he did have to do, um, I thought he dealt with very well. Was a bit more commanding on crosses than usual, I thought, and as ever, barking out his instructions to his defence. If there's something he's not happy with in what we're doing, then uh, he lets the players know in no uncertain terms. And yeah, but I say another very solid performance from Pickford, and yeah, I think just a solid 7 out of 10 for him. I think based on today's game, and moving on to the defence, I'd say similar really for Ashley Young. He's someone who comes in for a lot of stick whenever fans see his name in the lineup. Why is Ashley Young still playing? Obviously, both Coleman and Patterson were both back on the bench. Probably not match sharp yet. Obviously, Patterson's coming from a long-term injury. Coleman from a string of little niggling injuries, really. But obviously weren't to be rushed back for this one. And to be honest, I really don't think Young's done too much to warrant having to be dropped as soon as people come back. He might not be our best option there, but I really don't think he's had that bad as a start to the season as many are making out. And I thought it was another very solid performance from him today. Feeding the ball to Harrison down the right wing, and dealt with any threat that Jack Clark posed down our right flank. And yeah, just another solid performance from him, really, to be honest. I think a sign of a good defender is if you don't notice their performance too much, it probably means they're doing something quite right. And I think Young had like the most impactful of games today, but clearly went about his job in an effective way, really. So yeah, no qualms will be there. There's another 7 for him, really. Um, to be honest, it's a 7 for all of the defence. I think I don't think anyone stood out too much for me. Obviously, Keane scores his goal, really well taken goal. And I thought Tarkowski looked back to his best again, really. We've seen glimpses of that. I think against Palace he played very well once he had Brantford next to him, and then once Brantford came back out of the team against Newcastle, maybe not quite as good a game, but him and Keane seems to slowly be forming a bit more of a partnership and working effectively as a defensive unit together. And I thought Tarkowski was very good today. Strong in the air, was clearly winding Liam the lap up. Obviously, he's had a very good start to the season for Ipswich, but just didn't have much of an impact at all really today, other than uh, you going in strong on our players. Let's say somehow avoided a booking, even though there were like 3 or 4 incidents, most of which were noticed by Michael Oliver. Um, but yeah, I think Tarkowski played a large part in just why the lap was getting so wound up. And yeah, so yeah, 7 for him and for Keane. Obviously, Keane, as I say, took his goal incredibly well. Like proving once again that he's probably somehow the best finisher at the club, despite being a centre back on his weaker left foot from a tight angle. And yeah, an amazing goal, another goal for him, second of the season. And yeah, Mikalenko as well came back into the side after another little injury. He's been struggling a bit this season so far with injuries, but came back in today and showed no signs of rustiness for me. I thought he was very solid. Um, Dealt with anything that Hutchinson was probably their best player, I'd say, for Ipswich today. Mari Hutchinson, often floating over to the left and right flanks, and whenever he was on the right hand side, I thought Mikalenko still did well to make sure he didn't have too much of a threat. And I also thought he did very well for the goal, for the first goal. I haven't really seen many people saying this, but when the ball like kind of bounced around in the area, and Ipswich were trying to clear it, I think Mikalenko clamping onto him and onto the Ipswich defender and making it impossible for him to get the ball cleared contributes a lot to it. And obviously it falls for Ndai and he takes it as he does. So I think Mikalenko deserves quite a bit of credit for that goal. So yeah, a seven for all of the defence who I think are really starting to show signs. Um, that yeah, like the signs that we saw last season really, where we could almost rely half the time on defence being solid and hopefully keeping a clean sheet. And yeah, as I say, um, for second consecutive one of the season now after having to wait a while for one of them. Then moving on to the midfield, I'd say Decore was probably one of our weaker players today. I thought that if he had, don't get me wrong, I think he had some very good moments at times, but I also thought there was a few times where a bit too lax in the middle. Obviously he's not the most composed of midfielders, we all know that. Um, and obviously the further back on the pitch, the more further back in the pitch he is, the more his mistakes can potentially cost us. But um, wasn't like I said, there was nothing like too majorly bad that he did today, and there were also some very good moments he had. I think this role we have of him being a bit deeper and being able to drive into the space, um, it can suit him at times, but just not others. And yeah, just don't think it was quite his best performance today. And compared to some of his peers, I don't think he had quite a good performance. So I'll give him a six. Break this trend of the sevens that I've been doing so far. Whereas Idrissa Gueye next to him, I thought had an absolutely excellent game, and I think he's having a really good season for us. I think we definitely missed him when he was out the side after the personal family tragedy that he had. And yeah, like I say, having him back first start for a few weeks now, I thought he was superb from the start. Some really nice touches. I think I think when we have him on the ball, chances are we're going to keep hold of it, and it's crucial that you can have a play like that when in a team like ours that don't never really dominate possession, and can often play ourselves into trouble by with sloppy passing. I think having a player like just a gay in there is really important. Um, and yeah, I think he's been very important for us for a long time now. We saw it when he came back into the side last at the end of last season, and we started winning games again. I think we owed a lot to that, a lot of that to just a gay. So yeah, another great performance from him, giving him an eight, probably my man of the match. Um, and yeah, like I say, another very solid performance from Idrissa Gueye. Then moving into the attacking areas, again, I don't think Jack Harrison had quite his best game today. I think he, struggled to really get involved. A lot of our stuff was going down the left with McNeil and Ndai and Calvert-Lewin running the channels. And yeah, whenever Harrison like got the ball, like was trying stuff and it just wasn't really coming off for him today. Just one of those days really. Obviously always works really hard for the team when we're defending a lead and stuff, and that's crucial to have. And obviously, no Jesper Lindstrom on the bench. That would probably mean that Allison again is one of our few options that we have on the right wing. So even when he's not at his best, um, he's still going to be featuring heavily this season, I'm sure. So hopefully some improved performance from him are to come. But yeah, I'd say a six today. Probably again one of our poorer players along with Decore. Uh, then with McNeil, obviously probably been one of our best players this season. I thought he had quite a slow start to this game, to be honest. I think there was times where they like taking a bit too long. He had a chance early on where probably should have taken the shot on first time, but tried to take a touch and just ran out of time to get the shot away, and the Ipswich player tackled him. And yeah, there was obviously the penalty incident, which was initially given by Michael Oliver and then got overruled because it was basically exactly what happened in our Newcastle game in the penalty that we didn't get. So it's always going to be one of them that, the hypocritical sense of things in that if they'd got it, if they hadn't had it given for us and then we had it given against us, 2 weeks later, it would have been, yeah, there would have been a storm kicked up anyway. But yeah, obviously it wasn't given in the end. But I felt again McNeil was a little sloppy there, got caught on the ball, and obviously almost gave away a penalty. But just about did enough to stop the player getting the shot away, but in a legal sense. But as I say, I thought he started quite poorly, but then really grew into the game very well. And I'd say it was running the show for most of it, especially in that first half. Towards the end of that, when we were really on top and really looking dangerous. Gets a very good assist for Michael Keane's goal. Some really good tight dribbling. Gets the ball out. Gets the ball to Keane, and obviously Keane, as they say, does what he does. Great strike and. Yeah, another very solid performance from McNeil, who's really starting to look at home in that central role, I think. And yeah, I'd say a 7 for our number 7. And then in Die, again, as I say, another one who's been excellent for us since he came in this season. Um, Another goal to his name, a very well taken strike. Uh, as always, when we're defending a lead, he does his tracking back. I think he's quite an intelligent defender as well, which is crazy based on how much he offers us offensive wise. You'd imagine he'd be like limited defensively, but I think he's actually um, very crucial, and him and Mikhalenko are starting to work quite well together. And as I say, having someone when you're defending a lead who can look after the ball as well as Ndai does is always very important. And obviously, there was worries that because he picked up a bit of an injury while on international duty during the international break with Senegal, that he might not be fit, ready in time for this game. But okay, he started the game, showed absolutely no signs of rustiness, had another very solid game. And although he didn't complete the 90, looks absolutely fine to me. Thank God. And yeah, will I'm sure have an impact in the coming games, just like he did in this one. And then finally, Calvert-Lewin. I'm sure this one's going to divide a lot of opinion. I know a lot of our fans are completely fed up with the fact that the lack of composure he shows in front of goal. Definitely should have scored today. Had at least two golden opportunities through on goal, and just not showing that composure and just not possessing that confidence to take it. Which is frustrating because I actually thought he had a very good all-round game besides scoring. One of them where he basically did almost everything but score. I thought he ran the channels excellently, and there's times where um, it almost seemed like what is he actually offering us? But I think today it was obvious. If we needed an outlet, he was almost always available, running the channels, winning flick-ons as he does. And driving with the ball a lot better than usual, I think, as well. Not he wasn't scared to have a run at the defenders and show that pace that we used to see in his young years. That almost seems to have been coached out of him a little bit more. He's a bit more of a physical striker now than he used to be. Um, but like I say, it's frustrating because if he'd scored, he probably would have been my man of the match, I think. But those lack of those opportunities that he didn't take, that he really should have done, I think count against him a little bit. But that said, I'm still going to give him a 7 as well. It's a 7 for most of the players, it's got to be said, because it was a really solid performance, I think, today. And I think no one had a bad game. Some had better games than others, as I say. I'd probably say just Gary was my man of the match. Harrison and Decore, maybe, two of our weaker players today, but still played okay. Um, and just a special mention for Mangala as well, I think, who was the only substitution that we made coming on for Ndiaye with about 10 minutes left. Thought really settled us down a bit because we were quite under the cosh for like the 10 or 15 minutes before he came on, as we tend to be, as legs start to tire, of course, when we're defending a lead. And I thought he really came in and settled us down, won some really important tackles, and just does the simple stuff really well, which I think is a player. Um, that we haven't really had for a while in that midfield. And he's hardly a star, but I think does his job very well when he does play. And yeah, he's proven to be quite a useful addition by all accounts. And yeah, I think that basically sums this up. So yeah, please leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment below, giving your ratings, giving your thoughts. I'm sure some of mine will have divided quite a bit of opinion. And as I say, check out the instant match reactions to this game if you want more in-depth thoughts on the game, if you haven't already. And subscribe to the Toffee Blues channel for more Everton content. And we will see you in the next video. Cheers.